It is 10 a.m. Pacific, and that means class is on. Good morning, everybody. How are you today? We are continuing our exploration of the sages' interpretation of dreams in the Talmud. We're in an area, we're on page 55b of the Babylonian Talmud, and we're in a Gemara, which is a commentary on the Mishnah. The Gemara closes around the year 500 of the Common Era. The Mishnah was set down on paper and completed around the year 200 of the Common Era. And both of these are commentaries and elucidations on the written Torah, but some of the oral Torah actually came directly from Mount Sinai, was given at Mount Sinai, as well as the instruction that you would have an oral tradition. That you would have an ongoing passing down of wisdom from teacher to student through all the generations, enabling the Torah to always be fresh and practical in every age, even as conditions change, as new technology came about, as the people were in the land of Israel, out of the land of Israel. They would always have a way to apply the law in their generation. Sometimes we encounter long passages of law. It can be very technical. You know, we don't work on Shabbat. What does work mean? There are 39 different kinds of work. One of those subcategories, for example, would be that you can't do the things that are involved in dyeing textiles. And from that, we know that we can't wring out. Right? Like when you wring out a rag and squeeze it to get all the liquid out of it, that's a kind of work that is prohibited on Shabbat. You might come to wring out a towel, and so there are prohibitions on whether you can bathe on Shabbat or not, simply because it might lead you to wring out the towel, but under certain conditions you can, etc. That's a whole category of just the more technical laws that we encounter in the Talmud. And other times we encounter things that seem a little bit more folkloric, more about the lives of the sages, and sometimes they engage in hyperbole, but this kind of area of the Talmud is called Agadah, or stories. There's always a rich kernel of truth in these stories, and sometimes we wonder, is this exaggeration? Is it real? But the sages were all real people. The characters in the Talmud were all real people. And then the legends that arose about them, as we'll see today, this is different than Scripture, right? This is very different than Scripture. And sometimes we wonder, it's not so much did this story happen or not. The question is, why is it included by the editors of the Gemara? Why was this included? They're also very tight, very terse. It's a real decision to include a particular story in the Talmud or to not include it. And so we actually have an interesting relationship with what we're going to be studying today with this week's Torah portion. This week's Torah portion is Naso. It's the longest Torah portion. It has some really compelling, emotional sections, like the one who takes a vow to become a Nazir. Even more emotional when a husband and wife have come to an impossible situation where through jealousy, where the husband is worried that his wife has cheated on him. And there's a procedure for bringing his wife to the temple in Jerusalem, and she goes through a trial. It's the opposite of the sort of trial by fire that you see, witches go through in movies, where if she's burned, then she's innocent, right? Here, if she swallows the bitter waters, and if she's unaffected, it means she's innocent. If these bitter waters, water with dirt from the floor of the temple, mixed in along with a piece of paper on which the name of God is written, some verses from the Torah are written, and then she swallows this mixture. If she's guilty, she'll have a horrible reaction and die. But if she's innocent, she will survive as if nothing had happened, and in fact, will conceive. It's almost like a treatment for infertility. After that, in this week's Torah portion, we get to a huge section. When we think that the Torah is very tightly edited, and every letter is there for a reason. Yesterday on our live show, I did a little teaching about the fact that, it says also in this portion that when they will confess their sins, the Torah adds the words that they did. They shall confess their sins that they did. Well, that they did is unnecessary. And so we had a whole teaching on the fact that the Torah adds these words that they did, which in Hebrew is asher asu. So just 2 words, right? 2 words were added, led to a whole long and beautiful teaching. Here in this week's Torah portion, we have the inauguration of the tabernacle in the desert, and each tribe, represented by the prince of that tribe, brings a collection of gifts for the inauguration ceremony. And so we have, actually have it over here in front of me, that one chieftain each day shall present his offering for the dedication of the altar. And then there's the list of the offerings: a silver bowl weighing 130 shekels, a silver sprinkling basin that weighs 70 shekels, a spoon made of gold worth 10 shekels, weighing 10 shekels, a young bull, 1 ram, 1 lamb in its first year for a burnt offering, 1 young male goat for a sin offering, and for the peace offering, 2 oxen, 5 rams, 5 he-goats, 5 lambs in their first year. And this was the offering of Nachshon, the son of Aminadab, on behalf of the tribe of Judah, who brought the first offering. Now, that's a pretty specific list. The other 11 tribes will send their chieftain, their prince, with an identical list of gifts. So it could have easily said, every tribe shall send these gifts, and then maybe give a list of the princes who brought it, and then you would have basically 3 paragraphs, 2 paragraphs for the gifts and 1 paragraph for the list of princes. But no, you have 36 paragraphs, because this listing is given for each and every tribe, every single item. The question is why? Why in a document that is so terse will so much be listed out? And some would say it's to teach us that every offering is equally valuable to God, not just of the princes, but every tribe, meaning every individual. Here today in the Talmud, we're going to come upon a story about dream interpretation and 2 sages who go to have their dreams interpreted, identical dreams, by a corrupt interpreter. And one pays to have the dream interpretation given, and the other doesn't. And so the interpreter gives a positive interpretation to the one who pays, and a negative interpretation to the one who doesn't pay. Okay, we get it. This guy was for hire, and he was not really doing God's work in handing out his dream interpretations. Perhaps he wasn't that way when he started, but he became that way somewhere in his career. They could give 1 example, 2 examples, 3 examples, and we would get the story. But instead, I forget how many exactly. I think it might be 10 different examples where the same behavioral pattern goes on. And so as we explore that in today's reading, the question I'd like you to keep thinking about is why? Why so many different examples? Generally, there's something to learn that's a little different from each example. And so I'd like you to think about, as we go through, why so many different examples, what is different about each example, and then be ready to comment when we come to the end of that long section, if we have time. All right, so we had been talking about the idea that the dreams follow the mouth, that when you have a dream and it's upsetting to you, you get it interpreted. Usually you should go to a few other people, not just one, because the way that they interpret it will have some effect on what happens afterward in your life. The way you approach that dream, if it's going to have, if it will function as an omen, if it will be a portent of what is to come, then the actual interpretation of what the interpreter offers to you will have some effect on your life and the actual events in your life. So we had been talking about Joseph when he was in the jail in Egypt. and two of Pharaoh's chamberlains were in with him. Both had dreams, and Joseph was able to interpret that the one, his dream meant that in 3 days he would be restored to his position at Pharaoh's side, and the other, his dream meant that in 3 days he would be executed. And he interpreted correctly. The one who returned to Pharaoh's side, Joseph asked him, remember me and get me out of jail. But the guy forgot about Joseph, and Joseph languished in jail for 2 more years before Pharaoh had a dream. And then this chamberlain said, oh, there was a guy in jail with us who interpreted dreams accurately. And that was the beginning of Joseph's meteoric ascent to the second highest position in the world, basically, the Grand Vizier to Pharaoh. So, having mentioned Joseph's interpretation of the dreams of Pharaoh's chamberlains, the Gemara comments further on the subject. The verse states, the chamberlain of the bakers saw that Joseph had interpreted the dream of his colleague well. Now, how did he know that Joseph had indeed interpreted the dream of his colleague accurately? He knew what his own dream was. How did he know that Joseph interpreted the other dream properly? So rather, Rav Elazar says, this verse teaches that in their respective dream visions, each one of the chamberlains was shown not only his own personal dream, but also the true interpretation of his colleague's dream as well. Having spoken of the prophetic nature of certain dreams, the Gemara relates a different way that future events might be presaged. Rabbi Yochanan said, if one awoke and a scriptural verse immediately fell into his mouth, this is a sort of minor prophecy. So if you ever have a dream, and in the dream you hear a verse from the Bible, wake up, pay attention. This is very important stuff. And Rabbi Yochanan also said, 3 types of dreams are destined to be fulfilled. These are, 1, a dream that one sees in the morning just before he wakes up. 2, a dream that his friend has dreamed about him. And 3, a dream that is interpreted within a dream. Is that nice? If you are in a dream, wake up and you're still in a dream and you're told what the dream that you had within the dream means, that interpretation is something to really pay attention to when you return to the waking world. And some say a dream that was repeated. So we had that question last week or the week before. Somebody asked, what is the meaning of a recurring dream? So here the Talmud is telling you, bingo, big importance. If you have a recurring dream, that is an important one. As it is written, as for the repetition of the dream, this is when Joseph was standing before Pharaoh. And Pharaoh had 2 different versions of the same dream, right? That there were 7 fat cows and then 7 skinny cows, and the 7 skinny cows ate the 7 fat cows, and then 7 full ears of corn or stalks of corn, and then 7 lean and withered stalks of corn, and the lean and withered stalks of corn ate the fat and plump stalks of corn. And both dreams had the same meaning. There would be 7 years of plenty followed by 7 years of famine. And then Joseph said to Pharaoh, the reason the dream was repeated with the same meaning is to let you know that the matter stands ready before God, and God is hastening to accomplish it. So it might be telling you that when you have a repeating dream, not only is important to pay attention to, but something's going to happen now or today, very soon. Above, the Gemara related a series of teachings affirming the prophetic properties. And let me add, if you're having a recurring dream, they're telling you that means something's ready to happen now. But then you think, well, nothing really happened. I just kept having the same dream. I would say what's been happening is an opportunity keeps presenting itself to you and you're not seizing it, right? So what is it that recurring dream is telling you that is actually a repeating opportunity in your life that you have not seized? Above, the Gemara related a series of teachings affirming the prophetic properties of certain dreams. The Gemara now sets forth a contrasting teaching. Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani said in the name of Rabbi Yonasan, a person is shown in his dream nothing but the products of his own thoughts. For it is stated, you, O king, your thoughts came while you were on your bed. This is from the book of Daniel and Nebuchadnezzar, who was much tougher than Pharaoh. Pharaoh, at least, would tell his dream interpreters, this is the dream I had, what does it mean? Nebuchadnezzar said, tell me what dream I had and tell me what it means. So it's pretty easy for him to dismiss all the wannabe interpreters. But here, Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachmani and Rabbi Yonasan are bringing this teaching to say that the dreams you have at night emerge from your thoughts during the day. Or if you prefer, I shall cite a proof from here. You may know what has occupied your thoughts, also Daniel. And the Gemara supports the position that some dreams are nothing but an outgrowth of one's daytime thoughts. Rava said, no, that this is so. For in a dream, a person is never shown a palm tree of gold, nor is he shown an elephant entering the eye of a needle. Since these things are beyond the pale of reality, one never contemplates them during the day, and consequently, these images do not appear in his dreams. So remember, the way the Talmud works is it is not God speaking, here's the law. Right? The way the Talmud operates is we have discussions and debates among our sages. And since they often disagree completely, right, we're left to wonder, well, who's right? Sometimes the Gemara will say, and the law follows this one. Sometimes the Gemara will say, let it stand. We're not sure. Both views have merit, and it's important to study both views and understand them. The equivalent in, say, the Supreme Court of the United States is that we follow the majority, but the minority opinion is recorded. And sometimes in future cases, we go back, look at the minority opinion, say this was actually more compelling. And now that we understand the facts and the world better, we're going to go with the minority opinion. Something I take from this idea that the images we see in our dreams emerge from our thoughts during the day relates to the fact that, what are our dreams made out of? They may well be communication from above, but it may also be a kind of, that communication is not knowable and understandable to us in our human form with our limited vision, limited understanding. And so it comes to us through the image systems that we can grasp. Right? And so, what do we see? We see through the image system of our culture, of our family, of our community. Freud would say that what we see all arises from our inner thoughts and from the drives of our animal consciousness, right, of our id. Jung would say, when he's talking about archetypes, he's saying that there are image systems that are general to a culture. And even if you haven't encountered them in a book, they're available just in the milieu of your family, of your town, of your community, of your nation. And I do think that these image systems come into play in dreams for sure. And dreams are considered 1/60th of prophecy. So when a prophet has prophecy, he's shown a divine revelation, but it comes through him and into him through images that he understands. I think that when people have near-death experiences, it comes through the image system that is already a part of their psyche. And even when people, experiment with hallucinogens, or if they do it in a more religious context, entheogens, again, the images that they see during their experience come through the image system, which is already a part of their makeup. A related incident. Caesar, the Roman emperor, once said to Rabbi Yehoshua, the son of Rabbi Hananiah, "You Jews say that you are exceedingly wise. So, tell me, what will I see in my dream tonight?" So now it's not even I had a dream and I want you to tell me what I saw and what it means. Now it's predict what I will dream tonight. Well, this might actually be a little bit easier than Nebuchadnezzar's challenge. Rabbi Yehoshua replied to him, "In your dream, you will see that the Persians will press you into the service of their king, and they will seize you and force you to pasture unclean animals, i.e. pigs, with a staff of gold. And as it happened, the Caesar thought about this vision the entire day, and at night, he actually saw it in his dream. Doesn't mean that this is going to come true, but he told the sage, predict what I will dream tonight. And the sage did so, taking a big risk. I mean, telling Caesar, the head of the most powerful empire in the world, Rome, who was always a danger to the Jews, that he would have such a horrific dream, right? That Caesar would lose his empire and become the servant of Persia. Unbelievable that he had the audacity to do that. But I think that what Rabbi Yehoshua understood is people have fear, and often it's their fears that manifest themselves in their dream. So this would be a very real fear for the Caesar. And if he then thought about that all day, there was a good chance it would permeate his dreams that night, and that is what happened. Likewise, King Shapur once said to Shmuel, you Jews say that you are exceedingly wise. Tell me then what I will see in my dream tonight. Shmuel replied to him, in your dream you shall see the Romans come and take you captive, and they shall force you to grind date pits with a golden mill. And as it happened, the king thought about this vision the entire day, and at night he actually saw it in his dream. And I think that our sages are now giving this very contrasting teaching, right? It's been talking about how meaningful dreams are and how important it is to interpret them and to see that opportunity in them where you can make a teshuvah in your life, where you can do something that's valuable. But they're also telling you that dreams can contain a lot of nonsense, and even more, you can become suggestible in your life, and then you will dream what the suggestion is. So I think what they're telling us really is learn from all of this, but don't take it so seriously that you become obsessed with your dreams and then start to dream things that frighten you and actually hijack your emotional well-being. And there was actually a movie made about this idea by Wim Wenders. If anyone saw it, it was in the 80s, a movie called Until the End of the World. And it was about a machine that the scientists invented that would record your dreams. And so you could sleep at night, dream, and then in the morning, turn on the machines, like put on the eyepieces, like the virtual reality gear that we have now. You put on the goggles, and you would re-experience the dream that you had, this time as more of a spectator. And at first, it was really cool. People were fascinated, and it was amazing to them how rich their dreams were and how much they forgot in the morning. Now they were able to re-experience it. But then they started getting hooked on re-experiencing their own dreams, and they basically just detached themselves from the rest of the world and were just either dreaming or re-experiencing their dreams, and their quality of life just went completely to pot. Okay. We're now going to encounter the story that I mentioned earlier about the two sages who have their dreams interpreted by a corrupt interpreter. Before we launch into it, let me just view the comments, give Nina a chance to chime in and see if anyone else has a question. What does it say here? Oh, there's a good discussion going on. Let me see. Let me catch up. Okay. Kind of imply, Jeffrey is saying, Jeffrey, what is this? Is this you talking? Yeah, kind of implies that sinful behavior can and will happen. It is normal, maybe. Somebody says, Deb says, hardly necessary to differentiate between what they think and that they did, difference between knowing evil and choosing whether to do it or not. I mean, we're certainly talking about dreams within a moral universe, right? And so it is at all times our responsibility to do the right thing. And the whole idea of dreams following the mouth and providing an opportunity for teshuvah is that dreams are signals, that we can use to examine our lives. Let's say a good starting point. It's a very good starting point. Okay. All right. And Matthew says, I'm going to have to check that movie out. Thanks. Yeah. Wim Wenders is great. That one and what's it called? The one about the fallen angels. What's that movie called? They remade an American version. It'll come to me, or someone will know it, I'm sure. But it's an angel who decides to give up his wings and join us here, and how difficult it is. But makes that choice after observing the humans for so long and having a longing to experience the physicality and reality of this world. It was better. It was worth it to the angel to give up being immortal and so close to God to actually have the intense experience of being one of us. Angels of Desire. Thank you. That's right. And City of Angels was the American version. Okay. So now we enter this episode. The Gemara stated earlier that the realization of all dreams follows the mouth, i.e. the import of a dream depends on the interpretation accorded to it. The Gemara now presents a story pertaining to this theme. Bar Hedya was an interpreter of dreams. As for one who gave him payment for his services, Bar Hedya would interpret that person's dreams auspiciously, give him a positive interpretation. But as for one who did not give him payment, he would interpret that person's dream inauspiciously. Abaye and Rava each dreamed the same dream. Now, we've already been told that if somebody dreams the same dream as you, or if somebody dreams something connected to you, this is of particular importance. So the fact that they dreamed the same dream alerted these great sages, Rava and Abaye, that something's going on here. Let's get a little bit of help from a professional interpreting these dreams. Now, it must be that if our sages went to see this man, Bar Hedya, that he had some kind of a big reputation. So I'm guessing that this was a guy who'd been doing it for a long time, had a big reputation for doing it, but eventually became very cynical and corrupt, and something changed in his life, and that's the stage in his life where we find him. But Abaye and Rava are only aware of his great reputation for dream interpretation. So they went to him. They approached Bar Hedya to interpret it for them, the same dream that both dreamed. Now Abaye gave him a zuz as payment for the service. This is not a lot of money. It's significant, but not a lot. One zuz. Whereas Rava did not give him any money. They said to him, in our dream, they read to us the following verse. So they in their dream, they heard a verse from Scripture. The verse is, your ox will be slaughtered before your eyes, but you will not eat from it. So this is from the book of Deuteronomy, where Moses, in his month-long sermon that he gives the Jewish people before his passing, in the course of that sermon, lays out the blessings and the curses. If you will all follow the laws that I have been given at Mount Sinai and written down for you and transmitted to you these 40 years that we've been wandering in the desert, if you follow all these laws, once we're in the promised land, then you will be the most blessed of all people, and the rain will come at the proper time, and your fields will be rich, and your animals will be fecund, and everything will be beautiful. But if you stray from these laws and you worship the gods of others and you become the same idolatrous, savage know-nothings that you were before you received the Torah, then you will be the most cursed of all people. And he reads a whole series of curses, and this is one of them, right? You will have a cow that could feed your whole family, your whole village, and it will be slaughtered in front of you, and you will not get any of the meat, right? People will slaughter it and take it away from you, and you'll be starving, and they will eat in front of you. So that's one of the big curses. This was read to both Rava and Abaye in their dream. Now, to Rava, the one who did not pay, Bar Hedya said, this foretells that your business will fail, and on account of your heart's great sorrow, you will have no interest in eating. But to Abaye, he said, your business will profit, and on account of your heart's great joy, you will have no interest in eating. Abaye and Rava then recounted a further dream to Bar Hedya. They said to him, in our dream, they read to us the verse that states, you will bear sons and daughters, but they will not be yours, for they will go into captivity. the very worst thing that could happen to a person, watching their children become slaves in another land. To Rava, the one who did not pay, Bar Hedya said, this verse pertains to you according to its original negative meaning. That is, your children will be taken from you by marauders. However, to Abaya, he stated a more favorable interpretation, namely, your sons and daughters will be many, and your daughters will get married to husbands from other parts of the world. And since they will have to live so far away, it will seem to you as if they had gone into captivity. But actually, you have a lot of children and they marry and you're going to have a lot of grandchildren. Some of these grandchildren won't live in the same town as you, and that'll be a bummer, but it's certainly not like the interpretation that Rava got. Abaya and Rava relate a third verse that they saw in a dream. They said to Bar Hedya, they read to us the following verse, your sons and daughters will be given to another people. Very similar. To Abaya, Bar Hedya said, this foretells that your sons and daughters will be many, and when the time arrives to find marriage partners for them, you will say that they should be given in marriage to your relatives, whereas your wife will say that they should be given to her relatives. And eventually, she will coerce you to comply with her wishes, and you will give them in marriage to her relatives, which in a manner of speaking is as if they married into another people. But to Rava, Bar Hedya said, the verse's mention of another people indicates that your wife will die, following which you will remarry, and your sons and daughters will come to the hands of another woman, i.e. an evil stepmother. You see, it just keeps going, right? The same verse, you can find a very positive and a very negative interpretation. And remember, I'm asking you, what do we learn from each successive example? Why are there so many examples where Bar Hedya provides a very positive or a very negative interpretation? Fourth example. Bar Hedya actually quotes Rava's own teaching in support of his interpretation. So now he's supporting the third interpretation. For Rava himself once said, in the name of Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba, who in turn said it in the name of Rav, what is the meaning of that which is written? Your sons and daughters will be given to another people. The verse refers to a new wife of the father. So here Bar Hedya is telling him that the kernel of the interpretation that I give you comes from your own teaching that you gave, that when it says your sons and daughters will go into captivity, it may mean that they're enslaved, or it may mean that they'll come into the influence of a step-parent, which would be very bad for them, if that step-parent is mean. So presumably Bar Hedya is showing that he's not just an interpreter of dreams, he's a well-versed Jew, right? He's an educated Jew. The Gemara resumes, Abai and Rava then said to Bar Hedya, in our dream, this is the fourth example, they read to us the following verse, go eat your bread with joy. To Abaya, the one who paid, Bar Hedya said, this indicates that your business will prosper and you will eat and drink in abundance, and in your heart's great joy you will recite this verse. However, to Rava, Bar Hedya said, your business will fail, you will slaughter meat, but you will not have the appetite to eat or drink, and to mitigate your anxiety, you will recite this verse, hoping that it will give you some hope. Right? Next example. Abaya and Rava said in our dream, they read to us the following verse, you will take abundant seed out to the field, but you will harvest little, for the locust will devour it. So we're back in the curses in the book of Deuteronomy. Now, to Abaya, Bar Hedya stated an interpretation deriving solely from the first part of the verse, i.e., he told him he would be blessed with abundance. You'll have lots of seeds in the field. However, to Rava, he stated an interpretation deriving from the latter part of the verse, i.e., he told him that all of your crops will be devoured by the locust. All your efforts will be futile. Another verse seen in a dream. I think we're up to number 6 now. Abaya and Rava said, they will have olive trees throughout your boundaries, etc., but you will not anoint them with oil, for your olives will drop from the trees. Another curse. To Abaya, Bar Hedya stated an interpretation deriving solely from the first part of the verse, i.e., you will have a lot of olive trees. But to Rava, he interpreted from the latter part of the verse, but you will not get the benefit of all your trees. Number 7, another verse. Abaya and Rava said, they read to us the following verse, Then all the peoples of the earth will see that the name of God is proclaimed over you, and they will fear you. This is one of the big blessings, right? That the Jewish people will always be connected with God's name, and God will watch over them, and the whole world will see that. This is super positive, you would think. So to Abaye, Bar Hedya says, this foretells that your name will be spread far and wide, for you will become the head of an academy, and the world will hold you in awe. However, to Rava, he said, the king's treasury will be broken into, and you will be arrested as the thief. And then everyone will construct an argument from you, a Kal Vachomer argument, meaning that if this would happen to Rava, who's a great sage, how much more should I be afraid that I could falsely be accused, right? If they know he didn't do it, but if he's falsely accused by the government of robbing the treasury, and it could even happen to him, then how much more should we be afraid that it could happen to us? In other words, this dream foretells that you will become a cautionary tale, right? That's a pretty wicked interpretation to give to Rava. And the Gemara recounts, as it happened, on the following day, the king's treasury was indeed broken into, and they came and arrested Rava. So now we do have a new wrinkle, right? After all these examples, we're told that this sort of corrupt dream interpreter gave a very negative interpretation to the one who wouldn't give him payment for the interpretation, and it came true. So this would seem to really support the idea that we've been exploring all along, that the interpretation follows the mouth, or the dream follows the mouth, meaning that you have to be careful who interprets your dream and how you interpret your dream, because it will have an impact on reality. Before that happened, right, we get back to they're still continuing with other examples. They said to him, in a dream we saw lettuce resting on the mouth of a keg. For Abaye, Bar Hedya said, your business will double like lettuce. For Rava, he said, your business will become bitter like lettuce. Another dream. They said to him, we saw meat resting on the mouth of a keg. So we've gotten away now from scriptural verses, and we're with images. Lettuce on a keg, and now meat on the mouth of a keg. And to Abaye, Bar Hedya said, your wine will be aromatic and sweet, and everyone will come to purchase meat and wine from you. Your business will prosper, because you offer products of superior quality. However, to Rava, he said, your wine will turn sour, and everyone will come to buy meat to eat with it, for it will be unfit for drinking and suitable only as a condiment, right? It's getting so specific now. The recounting of dreams continues. They said to him, in our dream, we saw a barrel that was hanging in a palm tree. I've lost count. Are we like at 10 examples now? In interpreting this to Abaye, Bar Hedya said, your merchandise shall grow to great heights like a palm tree. But to Rava, he said, your merchandise shall be sweet like the dates of a palm tree. That's actually not a positive. It means it will be sweet to your customers because you're selling it so cheap and they think they're getting a good deal. In other words, your customers will rip you off and you won't even know what the right price is. Another vision. They said to him, in our dream we saw a pomegranate that was sprouting from the mouth of a keg. To Abaye, Bar Hedya said, your merchandise will be expensive like a pomegranate, i.e. you will sell your produce at a great profit. But to Rava, the one who did not pay, he said, your merchandise will be tart like a pomegranate, i.e. your wine will be bitter and everyone will therefore despise it. Yet another example. They said to him, in our dream we saw a barrel that fell into a pit. To Abaye, he said, your merchandise will be sought after by people, as one who says bread has fallen into a pit and has not been found. What he's saying is your merchandise will be so in demand that everyone will say, where's your merchandise? I want to buy. Where's your stuff? And he just won't have enough product to meet the demand. But to Rava, he said, your merchandise will be ruined and it will be thrown into a pit. Yet another dream. We're almost at the turn in the story. They said to him, in our dream we saw a young donkey that was standing near our heads and braying. To Abaye, Bar Hedya said, this foretells that you will be a king, i.e. you will be the head of an academy, and the speaker will stand at your side to announce your words to the assembled public. You can imagine when a big sage would give a Torah lecture in the ancient days, there would be a big crowd would come to hear him, 1,000, 2,000. But they did not have microphones in those days. So when you were a really big public speaker, an important public speaker that would draw crowds, the technology of the day was repeaters. They were people who would repeat your words. First, a really loud person right next to you. So you speak at a normal volume, and then they repeat your words super loud. And then there would be repeaters, much further out in the crowd that would hear what that loud person says and then repeat it for their section of the crowd. And so this is what Bar-Hedya is predicting for Abaye. Where does it go? So this is what will happen to Abaye. But however, to Rava, he said, the words Peter Hamor, the firstling donkey, will be erased from your tefillin. So this is just part of one of the verses that's inside the tefillin. It'll be erased from there, meaning that his tefillin, which is so holy that you have to have on you and be very correct or it's no good, it will be rendered invalid. And for a great sage to have invalid tefillin is just, terrible for him. And he said, and then this is when actually Rava starts to get suspicious. He says, well, no, I checked my tefillin and the words Peter Hamor are in them. And Bar-Hedya said, oh, well, then at least the vav in that word has been erased. It's not valid, let me tell you. The Gemara continues. Ultimately, Rava went by himself, i.e. without Abaye, to Bar-Hedya and recounted a dream for his interpretation. Rava said to him, in my dream, I saw that the outer door of my house had fallen. Bar-Hedya said to him, this foretells that your wife will die. Rava then said, in my dream, I saw that my molars and my front teeth had fallen out. Bar-Hedya said to him, this indicates your sons and daughters will die. Rava then said to him, in my dream, I saw 2 doves that were flying away. Bar-Hedya said to him, this indicates that you will divorce 2 wives. Rava said, in my dream, I saw 2 heads of a turnip. And Bar-Hedya said to him, this foretells that you will receive 2 blows with clubs. And that day, Rava went and sat in the house of study the entire day. And while there, he found 2 blind people who were fighting with each other. Rava went to separate them. And in their struggle, they hit him twice, 2 blows. They raised the club to deal Rava yet another blow, and Rava said, 2 is enough for me. I saw only 2 in my dream. So now Rava is ready to say, I need to work with my dream interpreter a little differently. So in the end, Rava came to Bar-Hedya and gave him payment for interpreting his dreams. After paying him, Rava said, in my dream, I saw that the wall of my house had collapsed. And Bar-Hedya, this would seem like a bad omen, but Bar-Hedya said to him, oh, this foretells that you will acquire boundless property. Rava further said to him, in my dream, I saw that the mansion of Abaye had fallen and I was covered in its dust. And Bar-Hedya said to him, well, this indicates that Abaye will die. And his academy, he'll be the head of a great academy. That's what he told Abaye earlier. Now he's saying to Rava, his academy will come to you. You will succeed him as the head of the academy. Rava then said to him, in my dream, I saw that my mansion fell and everyone came to the ruins and they took away brick after brick. And Bar-Hedya said to him, well, this indicates that your teachings will spread throughout the world. And Rava further said to him, in my dream, I saw that my head split and my brain fell out. I mean, could it get worse? But now that Bar-Hedya is getting paid, he comes up with a really beautiful interpretation of even my head split, my brain fell out. Bar-Hedya said to him, this indicates merely that feathers have come out of the pillow of your bed. No big deal. Nothing to see here, folks. And lastly, Rava said to him, the Egyptian Hallel was recited to me in my dream. The Egyptian Hallel is actually the Hallel that we recited holidays. We just had the Shavuot. We recited Hallel on both days. When we have Rosh Chodesh, we recite Hallel. It's an extra set of psalms that are sung on holidays. It's called the Hallel. So we give songs of thanksgiving and praise to God when we're really excited about a holiday. And Rava said it was recited in my dream. And Bar Hedya said to him, this indicates that miracles will happen to you. All right. So we're about to reach where the story really turns. There's going to be a big surprise ending to this story. But before we go there, I want to ask you, why were we given, I mean, it was much more than 10, right? I think it was 15 or 16 different examples of dreams that could have both a very positive or a very negative interpretation according to this corrupt dream interpreter who gave positive when paid or negative when he was unpaid. What do we think? Anybody want to answer? No. No theories? We have a class full of people, right? Okay. While you're thinking, Wanda said, what if before one said the Shema, before one falls asleep, and you hold a conscious intention and basically state to God that you are handing your mind in the dream state over to the mind of God, asking for guidance, inspiration, solution to an issue being experienced? Do you think this would have an effect on the clarity and importance of the dream? I do think that, Wanda. I definitely think that. I think that because you're approaching dreams from the right idea, not, oh, let me read my dreams so I can tell the future, so I can wager on the right horse at the racetrack. But rather, God, please help me understand your will, and I want to use every channel available, whether it's prayer or Torah study or my dreams. But I want to understand how I can serve you better, how I can, we're all damaged people, and perhaps our primary work in this world, our primary social justice work, is to first fix ourselves so that we're a blessing to the people around us. And that's often difficult to understand. First, what is my misbehavior? And second, how do I attend to my misbehavior? And if we look at our dreams for that purpose, we can learn a lot. So I do think that getting in touch for that reason is great. And Christo is saying over on the Facebook side, that's a big reason I keep a separate journal next to my bed. I write it down the moment I wake up. Exactly. That is how you get in touch with your dreams. You write them down when you wake up. And then the image system of your dreams and of your day start to come together more. And you do understand that language more clearly. And you may even have the experience of lucid dreaming, where you're conscious within your dream state that you're dreaming. And you can ask yourself, oh, I'm dreaming. Why am I dreaming this? What am I here to learn? That's the purpose. Okay, so who is this? Ivan says, humans are easily swayed one way or the other. We must believe in ourselves to prosper and grow. I think, Ivan, you're talking about my question, right? Why so many different examples are given. Yeah, when I read it this time with you all here, it really, I think number one, our sages are telling us this is how careful you have to be in interpreting your own dream and in getting help interpreting your dream. He's saying, this is all different kinds of examples, from verses in the Bible to seemingly innocuous images, to terrifying images, to extremely positive images, right? So all these different examples, positive verses, negative verses, innocuous images, positive images, negative images. All of them can be interpreted in such a way as to produce a very positive view of what will happen to you in your life, or a very negative view in your life. This is to tell you that there's no dream which on its surface is obvious, right? If it just seems like, oh, I had a really positive dream, I'm going to have a really positive thing happen in my life, or I had a really negative thing in my dream, I'm going to have a really negative thing in my life. No, not at all. Every dream, especially one that is intense and you become emotional about it, is an invitation, but the interpretation requires care. And it is possible, as we've seen, to go very positive or very negative. And Rava did have the experience of not just receiving something to think about that was very negative or positive after he paid the money, but that it actually happened in his life, right? So if you're going to wrestle with your dreams, be very careful about it. And I think first we read the prayer a couple of weeks ago that's in every Jewish prayer book for the amelioration of dreams, which says, Master of the world, my dreams are yours, right? The whole world is yours and my dreams are yours. Please help me understand my dreams. If it is for bad, please, ameliorate it, make it for good. If it is for good, then it should be for really good, and help me understand how I can make it good. So simply put, ask the question, God, what is it that you want me to get from this dream? What do you want me to hear? And then start the interpretation, and you'll be in much better shape. Now I want to give you the surprise ending of the story. Okay, so the last interpretation that Rava got from one of his dreams after he paid the money, and now he started getting positive interpretations, is that they said the Hallel for me in my dream, and the interpreter said, this means that miracles will happen for you. The Gemara tells how Rava's relationship with Bar Hedya eventually ended. Bar Hedya was once traveling together with Rava in a boat. Bar Hedya, though, decided to disembark. For he said, why does it serve me to travel along with a man for whom a miracle will happen? And so Bar Hedya gives negative or positive interpretations depending on whether he gets paid, but he believes that they will come true. Right? It's not like he's telepsychic who's just making this stuff up and it sounds good and they'll eat it and I'll get paid. He actually believes that this will come true for the person. So having told Rava that you are a person for whom miracles will happen, he doesn't want to ride in a boat with him. This is counterintuitive. You would think, if this is a guy that miracles are going to happen for him, I want to stick with him, right? Because miracles are going to be for him. But Bar Hedya says, perhaps the time has come for that miracle to occur and the boat will sink. And he will miraculously be saved, but I will drown. So while Bar Hedya was disembarking, a book fell from him. Rava found Bar Hedya's book and saw that in the book was written, the realization of all dreams follows the mouth, i.e., the import of a dream depends upon the interpretation given to it. Seeing this, Rava said to Bar Hedya, wicked person, the interpretation of my dreams was dependent upon you, right? Not just you were interpreting for me, like just bringing down a truth from heaven, but rather you knew that how you interpreted my dream would affect my life. You knew that, and you caused me so much pain. I forgive you for all of this, except for your interpretation predicting the death of my wife, the daughter of Rav Chizda. May it be the will of God that this man, i.e. Bar Hedya, be handed over to a regime that will have no pity on him. The Gemara tells how Bar Hedya responded to Rava's curse. Bar Hedya said, what shall I do? We have a tradition that the curse of a sage, even one that was unprovoked and freely uttered, will eventually come to be fulfilled. And certainly this applies to the curse just declared by Rava, for he has justly cursed me. Bar Hedya then said, I will arise and go into exile, for a master has said exile atones for sin. Right, so Bar Hedya realizes that he needs an atonement because he has been cursed by a sage. And we have a tradition that sages, what they say about people will come true. That goes all the way back to Jacob when he's running away from his father-in-law, Lavan. And when they leave, Lavan's idols, his little idols, are stolen. Jacob's wife, Rachel, takes them. We don't understand why she took them. Did she feel she needed them? She believes in God. She's Jacob's wife. Perhaps she wanted her father to be free of that kind of idolatry. But in any case, she took them. Lavan comes rushing up behind them. He says, you snuck away with my daughters and all my grandchildren. What do you think you're doing? Don't you know that I could have you killed? Jacob says, hey, you changed my wages a million times. You cheated me constantly. I didn't know how you would react. It's my time to leave, and we're leaving. And Lavan says, and why did you steal my idols if you're such a man of God? And Jacob said, I did not take your idols. No one here took your idols. If you find your idols with somebody here, let them be killed. Let them die. They didn't find the idols, but Rachel had them. And so our sages understand that Jacob's curse is what caused Rachel to die on the road near Bethlehem, on the road to Ephrat. She had a shortened life. And it was because Jacob, he obviously didn't want to curse his wife, but he did say the person who took the idols, let them die, and it happened. So now Bar-Hedja is saying, Rava is a big sage, and now he's cursed me. I'm in big trouble. Maybe I can make it a teshuvah. Maybe I can atone sufficiently to get out of this curse. And one way to make a big atonement is to exile yourself. So he goes to another place. He arose and exiled himself to the house of the Romans. Now remember, the curse was that you'll be given up to a regime that will have no pity on you. Seems odd that the type of atonement he chooses is to go to Rome, which sounds like a regime that will have no pity on him. But maybe he thought by doing it voluntarily, he could achieve that atonement. When Bar-Hedja was there, he went and sat by the door of the master of the royal treasury. Now it so happened that the master of the treasury saw a dream. He said to Bar-Hedja, I saw in my dream that a needle was inserted in my finger. Presumably knows that Bar-Hedja is a dream interpreter. Bar-Hedja replied to him, give me a zuz, and I will interpret this dream for you. But the man did not give Bar-Hedja a zuz. So Bar-Hedja told him nothing. He didn't give a negative interpretation. He just kept his mouth shut. The master of the treasury then said to Bar-Hedja, I further saw in my dream that a worm had set itself upon two of my fingers. Bar-Hedja said, give me a zuz, and I will interpret the dream. But it did not give him a zuz, and Bar-Hedja did not say anything to him. Finally, the master of the treasury said to him, I saw in a dream that the worm had set itself upon my whole hand. This time Bar-Hedja offered a reply. He said to him, what you have seen indicates that worms have set themselves upon all the royal silk garb that was under your supervision. The Gemara concludes its account. The royal court heard that the silk was ruined, and they brought the master of the treasury before them, and they killed him. However, before they put him to death, he said to them, of all people, why are you killing me? Bring instead the one who knew of the impending disaster, Bar-Hedja, but did not declare any warning of it. So they brought Bar-Hedja before them, and upon investigating the matter, they said to him, on account of your mere zuz, right, this small amount of money, either delay caused by your insistence that you be paid before interpreting these dreams, the silks of the king have been destroyed. And so the Gemara concludes the story by recounting Bar-Hedja's demise. They bound together two cedar trees with a rope and tied his one leg to one cedar tree and his other leg to another cedar tree. And they untied the rope binding the two trees until his head split. In other words, they took two trees that were near each other, bent them together using cranes and pulleys, tied him to the two trees, and then released the trees, and his body was literally torn in two. That is, each cedar tree recoiled until it stood in its original place, and as a result, his body split and fell into two pieces. So that was the end of a person who used his gift, for he certainly had a gift. He was so supple with dreams and their meanings and their possible interpretations that he could have brought great learning, not just joy and good fortune, but great learning and opportunities to make teshuvah to so many people. And he didn't use his gifts that way, and so he met with this horrible end. Okay. We are actually at the end of the official time with 1 minute to go. I want to read the names of the people that we're praying for their healing, and then I'll stick around and take questions and further discussion. We'll do that until 10 minutes after the hour. But since we're a community right now, I invite you to join me in praying for the healing. Please, God, give a complete and speedy recovery to Babette Batsara, Donald Wanamaker, Ahavamuna Bat Chava Etta, Golda Bat Shane, Chaim Ben Rose, Haya Esther Batsara, Chuck Wright, Jeff Wayne, Wyatt F, Jen W, Orkin Stacia, Munawar M, Annie McGregor, Andrew Gentry, Yitzhak Pesach Ben Miriam, Finnan Liam C, Chenua Talmage, Michal Ben Denise, Rachel S, Benjamin Ben Adina, Yosef Yitzhak Ben Bracha, Greta D, Matisyahu Yolbaruch Ben Gittel, Donna Smith, Scott Miller, Devorah Yael Bat Bruna Alta, Eliezer Ben Shua, Louise Bat Miriam, Moshe Ben Mindy, David G, Tifka Bat Kadosha, Yitzhak Ben Milka, Peter L, Elon Ben Ron. I'll be quiet for a moment while you add your names. And also, God, please watch over all the members of the armed forces and security forces that secure our freedoms, and protect all the first responders who rush to danger when we run away. Shelter them in your loving embrace, and let us say Amen. All right. It's great people are adding a lot of names. And also if you say where you are and in your hearts, it's beautiful. Okay. Kaylee says, so maybe we should leave it to sages, but who would those people be today? It's such a good question. Who can you trust to help you interpret your dreams? First, I think it's worth saying, it might be obvious, but it's worth saying, if you're going to go to somebody to get help interpreting a dream, go to someone that cares about you, right? Someone that cares about you. I think that goes a long way. And if there are people that care about you, you're in a pretty good position already to determine, is this a person who I would consider wise, right? So if it's someone you consider to be wise and who cares about you, that's a good start. That's a good start in finding them. Okay. Did anyone in the who's got their camera on want to say something? Can't see all of you at the same time, but if you raise your hands, you're welcome to. Okay. Wanda?
Yeah. Hi. Good morning. I think it would also be someone who you would go to someone who would listen, and then as opposed to proclaiming to you or telling you what your dream meant, it would be someone who was wise enough to ask questions that would allow you to dig deeper into your own psyche. So in fact,
Good.
Allow you to be the interpreter of your dream and maybe think about things that, oh, you know what? That may have come from this and this and this. And it's like, as opposed to a seer or a person that basically you're giving all your power to. And then saying, well, this person said this, so it must be true. It's
Very
like
good.
It's all going on in your mind.
Good. So they act a bit as a facilitator as well as an interpreter, helping you understand yourself.
Yes.
I like that. And we saw that one thing that Bar Hedja was able to do, right? He wasn't just dealing with the person in front of him as the person in front of him, right? Bar Hedja knew something about Rava and about Abaya. He knew some facts about their lives. So I would think that so it's relevant what's going on in your life. That's the context in which you're having the dream. So somebody who's going to help you interpret, or you yourself, if you're trying to interpret your own dream, will look at that dream in the context of what is going on in your life, right? So an interpreter who doesn't ask you questions about what's happening these days, what are you afraid of? What are you excited about? What's going on? What's going on that's important in your life? If they don't get into that, that maybe is a red flag. If that is a valuable interpreter for you. Kaylee asked, if dreams are 1/60th of prophecy, then what are the other parts of prophecy? Is there a list somewhere? No, it's just there's a list of things that are 1/60th of something else. So sleep is 1/60th of the next world. Dreams are 1/60th of prophecy. What is it? Shabbat is 1/60th of the Messianic age, etc. We're not told what the other 59/60ths are. They just mean that it's a taste. And that number, 1/60th, is an important number because, for example, if you're cooking a pot of meat and a drop of something dairy falls into it, I'm no halakhic expert on kashrut, on the rules of what's kosher, but I'm pretty sure that in this situation, if what falls in is less than 1/60th of the whole, it's considered nullified, and the pot remains kosher. But if it's more than 1/60th of the volume of what's in there, then the whole mixture has to be thrown away, and the pot may have to be thrown away as well. Whereas there's other things that even the least bit gets in, the whole thing's rendered invalid. For example, during Passover, if any bit of chametz gets into the food, then that food is no good. But I think that basically what we're being told is it's 1/60th of prophecy. The other 59 is simply not trustworthy, right? A dream is not prophecy unless you're a prophet. And so there is something there for you. There's an important message that you can dig in and try to find. But you need to take it with a big, big grain of salt. Don't think you've got the answer. Does anyone else want to jump in? Irene, go right ahead.
So in regards to the dreams being interpreted, I get the idea that it's the value of the dream. In other words, if you're paying for this dream to be interpreted, it's like if you go into a store and you're buying something that's worth $100, you think you're getting something of value. Whereas if you buy something for $10, it's not equal value. So it's not going to be as good as the $100 value. Now perhaps that's what leans into the good and the bad. I'm paying for this dream, so I'm going to get the good value. Whereas I'm not paying, the value's not equal. I don't know
it's earned, right? The valuable interpretation is more earned if you pay for it. Yeah, and I think likewise, if you're interpreting your own dream, you're not making a transfer, right, from one bank account to the other. But that the easy and facile interpretation is not earned, right?
Correct.
If you're having a powerful dream, it's what is the message I'm being sent here? It's going to take some digging to uncover it. It's not the surface meaning. I think you really keyed into something there, Irene, and that is why there were so many possibilities given, so many examples given in today's daf, in this Gemara that we read, because it shows you that the obvious answer is not right. You can really go deep there. And as much as Bar Hedja, we can fault him for bringing misery into Rava's life simply because he wasn't paid his zuz. Well, we might also say, well, what was Rava thinking? You went to a professional interpreter and you refused to pay. Why did you think that you would get interpretations for free? Because you're so prominent?
Right, exactly.
Very good.
And nothing of value is ever free, if you think about it.
For sure.
Nothing of value is ever free. So, that's what I was getting out of your question. Or that was the answer, my answer to your question.
Yeah, nothing is free. But now having seen a professional at work, it's funny, when I first read that, I thought, this is endless, man. What one example after another. I get the message already. But when you go back through it, I recommend you guys go back through it. You can at safaria.org. We'll put the link in the description. You can find page 56b of Tractate Brachas. When you read that whole section, you read it kind of slow. What you're actually acquiring is the tools of dream interpretation. You're seeing a whole host of different possibilities, different kinds of images, different kinds of verses, for good, for naught, on the surface, and how they can be interpreted very differently, for good or for naught. And it's actually it's a primer in dream interpretation, and a very valuable one. I thank you all very much. Oh, Matthew, did you want to jump in? You'll have the last word.
There we are. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
When you were reading that about the whole tree part, that first of all made me cringe. That was horrific. Is there also a measure that is a precautionary tale not to use what God has given you to do harm or wickedness? Because clearly he was at points, and allowing maybe greed to motivate him. Could that possibly be a meaning of that?
100%. 100%. It would have been terrible if he didn't have a wicked end. Like it's just, it was uncomfortable for us that because of money. Now listen, it's fair to get paid. If you're a professional dream interpreter, it is fair to get paid. But he could have just told Rava, hey, listen, I'm not going to work for you if you don't pay me, rather than give him these evil portents, which then had, really, destructive impact in Rava's life. And it is definitely an ongoing theme throughout the Talmud that you must not use the crown of Torah for selfish ends. In fact, that is considered misappropriation of temple funds, right? So in the days of the ancient temple, if you had any dealings with the temple, for example, if you were a contractor and the temple needed, the courtyard repaved, right? Okay, so they would pay for that. There were taxes that were always coming in, they weren't called taxes, but they were the free will offerings of the people. Some of them went to temple upkeep. And so there was a large amount of money there, and the temple was always kept in pristine, beautiful condition. And so if a repair needed to be done, well, then like the city, they brought in employees and paid them to do it, sometimes independent contractors. Those independent contractors would have to go way above and beyond to ensure that there was no possibility that any money or materials that had been entrusted to them for the purposes of the temple upkeep, even by accident, ended up in their pocket. Sometimes, right, you're working on a job. Imagine you're a contractor. Your truck is full of tools. You're on a work site. You use your tools. They get mingled with other people's tools. At the end of the day, they leave. You're not sure if a tool is yours or not. Okay, you put it in your truck. You'll bring it back the next day. If it was somebody else's, they'll get it then. No good. No good. If you're working on a temple, you couldn't take that risk that something that belongs to holiness could end up belonging to you. That's considered hekdesh. It's a big sin. Likewise, anything that is entrusted to you, like an ability to help others, if you misuse it, big avera, big sin. Thank you for that, Matthew. Thank you all for joining us today. It's really wonderful to learn with you here in our virtual classroom. I see there's a discussion going on between Nina and Wanda had asked about the donate button. If you want to support the work that we do and help us reach more people, you can do that at accidentaltalmudist.org. And there's a button right there that says give. And we certainly do our best never to misappropriate temple funds, as it were. But we pass it right through to, augment our ability to make more. Right now, we're in a period of expansion. We're actually hiring some staff to enable us to do much more than we have been doing. I'll just share, this is a digression, but I'll share that I've been doing way too much of the stuff that I should not be doing. Meaning I've been solving technical stuff computer programming equipment. I enjoy doing it, but my job is to be doing this, not to be solving technical problems. And so now we're finally hiring some people to help us with that so that I can focus on the content. Thank you so much for being in our class today, and may you all have a really beautiful Wednesday in whatever part of the world you are learning in. Take care, and may God bless you.